I'm Angela Bains, and I'm the Strategic Director of Transform EXP. I'm also a part-time instructor at BCIT in the Digital Arts Graphic Design program, and also a keynote speaker for the graphic design industry and also for social change. When I look at a piece of design, to me, I'm looking for when I look at it, I'm looking for this emotional response. So really, design to me is beauty, and like everything is balanced, um, everything is harmonious. The designer has thought about all the elements, even if the design is a style that is supposedly random. It still has, you can still tell that it has some sort of structure, even though it is random. Well, I think one of the really crucial things about me and my work is how I was actually trained at art school. And these pieces here, for example, this wonderful number 80 we have here. So this was actually all done by hand. So this was done with what we had in those days was a rotoring pen and what we call French curves, and then also flexi curves, which would help us to do a lot of these curvy shapes. But all this was done by hand and then filled in with ink. And as was this one here, see, it's looking a little bit motley. So this 78 here, again, done by hand. But this sort of thing, when you're doing it by hand, it really does, because you can feel the curves of the typography, it really does become part of you as you're drawing it. And that's the way you start to love and basically become part of the type. I really care about writing injustice. And I think that comes from, having grown up in a society that didn't accept you because you were a different color, and having to navigate that society, and having to equip yourself with a strength to survive that. Eventually, we were approached by the anti-apartheid movement and the African National Congress, or the ANC at that time, and they approached us to work with them on some marketing ideas to bring light to the apartheid system in South Africa. There was a real surgence of activism amongst the young people and amongst artists, musicians, writers, poets, and everyone was doing their bit. So there was a lot of energy around that. The idea here was we had to start focusing on just one person, and that was Nelson Mandela. And so this one basically has a quote from him, and it says, "Your freedom and mine cannot be separated. I will return." And then we had a little flame here on the candle, and that sort of represented the light in the window. And I don't know if you know that Temptation song, but it says, "Leave a light in my window." It's a beautiful song. You can scratch that bit out. You'll keep that? If I put my work into context in terms of what's happening today with the climate action, I would say that back in the 80s, we were the young people of today, who did this global march around the world, leaving school, taking that time to have their voices heard, to get together. If you imagine that times 100, so that times 100 was what was happening back in the 1980s. And I would love to see the young people of today, I would love to see that repeated on a more regular basis as well. Because to march once is one thing, but I think you have to build that sustainability, and I think you have to sort of repeat that so that the politicians don't just go, "Oh, well, they're done now. We can just carry on and do what we were doing before." I would say one of the really poignant points in my life was when Nelson Mandela was released from prison. And he said in his speech when he came to London, he said, "Thank you that you chose to care." So find a cause or an issue that you care about and choose to care about it.